Good morning to all the participants. I am Kavita, HOD of Physics Department. I welcome you all to the webinar on the topic of alpha decay half-lives on the behalf of our principal sir and all the fraternity of the college. I have great pleasure to introduce our worthy guest, Dr. Harjeet Kaur. She has been working as an assistant professor at Department of Physics, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar. She has completed her MSc honors in physics from the same department and completed her PhD under the supervision of Professor Sham S. Malik on the topic of semi-classical methods for non-linear phenomena in nuclei. She is also guiding students in carrying out research in theoretical physics. She has presented papers in various premier institutions of India and published papers in national and international journals. And so all the students will really enjoy this talk on alpha decay half-life presented by our worthy speaker, Dr. Harjeet Kaur. Now I request our speaker, Dr. Harjeet Kaur, please present her paper. And now this is over to you, ma'am. And welcome again.
Thank you very much, Kavita ji. So first of all, I would extend my gratitude towards your college and principal and every faculty member for inviting me here to present my work on alpha decay half-lives. I'm really very happy to present my work. I hope everyone will follow me and ask as many queries as you want. So I think everything is fine now, and I shall pursue my talk. So, can I pursue my talk now?
Please, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so in this following talk, first of all, I would like to introduce you to my topic, that why these alpha decay half-lives are important, why their calculations are important. So let's see how we are going through this talk. So first of all, I would like to say that all the physical laws governing the stability of super heavy nuclei are gaining very much attention these days. So alpha decay is proved to be very beneficial in the identification of new super heavy nuclei, while spontaneous fission causes a problem because it aborts the chain before reaching to the desired area of the nuclear chart. Moreover, to investigate the nuclear ground state energy, nuclear spin parity, and effective nuclear interaction, alpha decay mode act as a nifty probe. So we believe that radioactivity of super heavy nuclei would pave the way for future experiment in the synthesis of detection and in the synthesis and detection of new super heavy nuclei and locating the island of stability. So why I would like to suggest that why we should follow this topic, because till date Z equal to 118 nuclei is the only super heavy nuclei which is synthesized in the laboratory. Above Z equal to 118, no nuclei has been yet formed in the laboratory. So we are in the quest of...
Excuse me, ma'am, your screen is not showing.
Oh, that's great. But here I'm showing that I'm presenting. Jessica, just look into it. So please let me know whether my screen is visible to you.
No, ma'am, it is not displaying here.
Well, to me, it is shown on my screen that you are presenting to everyone. And below that, an icon is given where it's written stop presenting, where I have to click it if I want to stop presenting. And my student is also logged into this webinar, and on her phone, everything is presenting on her screen. I don't know where is the problem. Is this with everyone's? I mean, everyone is facing the same problem?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Next page.
मैम यहाँ पे आपकी 2 आईडी शो हो रही हैं, एक से आपकी आवाज आ रही है और दूसरी की शो हो रही है स्क्रीन।
Oh. I think hcore0917@gmail.com. Maybe. hcore0917@gmail.com is that ID from which I am presenting.
Yes, ma'am, on presentation Harjeet Kaur, it is showing.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll resume here from here now. So why a calculation of alpha decay half-lives are important? I was trying to explain that. So it's important because today we are in quest of forming new super heavy nuclei. Till now, we have reached up to Z equal to 118 atomic number, and we are making attempt to synthesize the nuclei with atomic number Z equal to 119 or 120, or nuclei above these atomic numbers. So that's why calculation of alpha decay half-lives are important, because mostly these super heavy nuclei decay with the emission of alpha particle, and they decay by spontaneous fission also. But if they do so, then there is an end of decay chain, and we lose at a point at which we can identify new super heavy nuclei. All right, so now we will discuss the method which we follow to calculate the alpha decay half-life. So this is very, very a simple thing, like which we have already done in our graduation classes. That alpha particle can be described in form of the tunneling of a charged particle from a nucleus, and the potential barrier which the alpha particle has to face while crossing while coming from the nucleus is the Coulombic potential barrier, right? This thing we have already done in our graduation classes. But in research we are doing new and new things. We add more and more, and so that the result can be brought more and more. So here, apart from this Coulombic potential, we are having a new form of potential, which is the proximity potential, right? Coulombic potential is the same, Z1, Z2, E square over 4 pi epsilon naught R. So this is the same form of the potential. This proximity potential is the new thing which is added to our interaction potential, which the alpha particle has to cross while coming out of the nucleus. So Coulombic potential, I repeat again, is the same which we have gone through in our graduation classes. And the new thing which I have added to the interaction potential is the proximity potential. And what is the form of the proximity potential? This is the form of the proximity potential. So 4 pi gamma exponential minus 1.38 r minus r alpha minus rt, and the whole thing in this bracket, right? So this is the form of the interaction potential, Coulomb part plus the proximity part. The thing we have done in our graduation classes, we will repeat the same thing, just we will do another thing, that we will add proximity potential to the Coulomb potential as well, and then we will rederive the same thing which we have derived in our graduation classes. So this is the main thing which I want to convey to you, that proximity potential is the new thing which we have done in this work. Otherwise, this work is very similar, which we have read in our graduation classes. So this is the form of the proximity potential. And the parameter gamma, which is used in expression 4. This is the expression for this parameter gamma. And now, once we are done with the form of our interaction potential, the next step will be to find the transmission coefficient. And the transmission coefficient, you know that. Exponential raised to the power minus integral k2r dr is actually the transmission coefficient. And this integral is that transmission coefficient, and that we have to calculate. And once we have found the transmission coefficient, the next thing is finding the half-lives. So half-life is log 2 over this transmission coefficient over nu naught. Nu naught is the assault frequency, and p naught. P naught is the pre-formation probability. And what are now these factors? Assault frequency and the pre-formation probability. So pre-formation probability is actually the probability of the formation of the alpha particle inside the nucleus. So if the alpha particle has to come outside the nucleus, first it has to be generated inside the nucleus. So what is the probability that alpha particle is formed inside the nucleus? So that is the pre-formation probability, because there are probabilities of the formation of many other clusters also. Why alpha particle only? Why not carbon cluster? Why not oxygen cluster? Why not triton? Why not lithium? Why only alpha particle come out of the nucleus, right? So there is a certain probability assigned to the formation of alpha particle out of the formation of many other clusters, right? So this is the pre-formation probability, that alpha particle is generated inside the nucleus, then it comes out after crossing the potential barrier comprising of the Coulomb potential and the proximity potential, right? The other thing is the assault frequency. So assault frequency is the thing that once the alpha particle is made inside the nucleus, right, then it will attack the nuclear barrier billion trillion times, right? And out of this attempts, there are chances that it will come out of the nucleus, right? So it is not just like the alpha particle is made inside the nucleus, then it tries to come out of that nucleus, and then it comes out of the nucleus, right? So it's nothing like that, right? So first of all, there is a probability that the alpha particle is made inside the nucleus, then it will attack the nuclear boundary many times so that it may get a chance to escape from the nucleus. And finally, it will tunnel through the interaction potential to come out of the nucleus. So this is the whole process, right? So this are the whole things. First thing is the transmission coefficient, which is the probability that it will cross that potential barrier comprising of Coulomb barrier and the proximity potential barrier. The other thing is the assault frequency, the many times it hits the nuclear boundary, and P naught is the preformation probability, the probability that the alpha particle has been made inside the nucleus. So all these things collectively decide the half-life of the nuclei undergoing a alpha decay. So T alpha theoretical half is actually log 2 over K nu naught P naught, right? So I hope every point is clear up to now. So this expression is very much similar to the well-known expression in radioactivity, that T half is equal to log 2 over lambda, where lambda is a disintegration constant, right? So this term collectively in the denominator is called the disintegration constant or the decay constant, right? Now come to the point that what is this mu naught and P naught? I mean, analytically, expression wise, right? So this is the expression for nu naught, 1 over 2 RP square root 2 E alpha over M alpha. E alpha is the kinetic energy of the alpha particle, M alpha is the mass of the alpha particle. And what is this E alpha? I have already told is the kinetic energy of the alpha particle. And this is related to the Q alpha. Q alpha is the disintegration energy when the alpha decay happens. And log 10 P naught is the preformation probability of the alpha particle made in alpha particle such that alpha particle is made inside the nucleus, right? So this is now our model. Our model is very much similar to the things which we have done in the graduation classes. I'm repeating again. The only thing is we added this interaction potential, and following the similar methodology, we have calculated T half, and T half is equal to log 2 over K nu naught P naught. And using this expression, we have calculate the half-lives of many even nuclei whose atomic number lies in the regime Z equal to 82 to 102. And the changes in the experimental results and our results are plotted in this figure, and one can easily notice that they are even less than 1, right? So there are almost above 60 number of nuclei for which we have done the calculations of alpha decay half-lives, right? So this is a purely theoretical method to calculate the alpha decay half-lives. However, there are empirical methods available in our area which we can use to calculate the alpha decay half-lives. And these methods are this Viola-Seaborg method, which is in short form called the VS formula. And this is the formula, empirical formula to calculate the half-life. It's very simple. Numbers are given to us. Q alpha we know experimentally, and this is also a number H, Z, P, and P. But it is different for the type of the nucleus we are going to deal with. For even nucleus, it's 0. For even odd nucleus, it is 1.066. For odd even nucleus, it is 0.772. And for odd nucleus, it is 1.114. And then it's modified form, modified Viola-Seaborg formula, right? So this is the modified Viola-Seaborg formula. And don't worry about these constant. The values for these constant I have given in the table, which I'll show in the other slide. Then there is Brown formula. Brown formula is 9.54 ZD raised to power 0.6 Q alpha minus half minus 51.37. Then this modified Brown formula. Then this modified Brown formula 2. Then there is Roy's formula. Roy's formula is very famous. So A plus B, parent nuclear mass number, parent nuclear atomic number plus C, parent nuclear atomic number over Q alpha. Then its modified form. Then there is another model, ACRA model. So see, there are a variety of empirical models available in our area to calculate the alpha decay half-life. ACRA model, modified Manjunathan model, and universal model. And all the constants appearing in these formula I have tabulated here, right? So in this table, you will get all the values of unknown which appears in this empirical formula. All right, so again, using our model, as I have suggested that I have calculated the alpha decay half-lives of nuclei with Z equal to 82 to 102, which is called the heavy regime, right? So the nuclei whose atomic number is greater than the atomic number of lead fall in the heavy regime. They are called the heavy nuclei, right? Up to Z equal to 102. Above Z equal to 102, we call the super heavy regime, right? So now the similar calculation I have done for the atomic nuclei with Z equal to 104 to 1118, because experimentally we have the data up to the nuclei with Z equal to 118, right? As I have explained in the introduction, till date we are able to synthesize the nucleus OG, ognation, after a scientist who has made a crucial contribution to this super heavy nuclei chemistry is Ognesian, and after whose name we name the nuclei Z equal to 118, right? OG. So now I repeat the similar calculation for the nuclei with Z equal to 104 to 118, and I again reported the changes in the experimental data and the theoretical data here. Again, the difference I obtain over here is less than 1, right? So these are the calculation. I have checked my data, my model with many experimental result, and I always found the good agreement with the experimental data. So now how I will use this study. So once I have established my model that it is giving that's giving the results which are in very much good agreement with the experimental data. Now I will proceed towards how I use my study so that the experimentalist can use our result in the synthesis and identification of new super heavy nuclei, right? Again, to check how good our model is, we have calculated the root mean square value, the mean deviation value, and the mean of errors. These are all the parameters and which will tell us that how good our model is, right? So these are the values which we got for these statistical parameters in this table. And for our model, we got the value as lowest, the root mean square value the lowest, 0.279. While for super heavy nuclei, again we got the RMS value lowest when compared to all other models, 0.302. So this is our achievement, that the calculations done by us give the minimum error when compared with the experimental data. So now we can trust our model, right? All right, so this is all about our model. So now if we want to predict the same alpha decay half-lives for the super heavy nuclei, first of all, we require the disintegration energy, because we have seen that Q alpha plays an important role in the derivation for the calculation of the alpha decay half-life. So Q alpha is very, very important, right? So for all these nuclei for which experimental data is available to us, it is very easy to have the Q alpha value from the experimental data. But to predict the alpha decay half-lives for the unknown super heavy nuclei, we actually don't have experimental Q alpha. So first of all, we have to evaluate Q alpha also, so that we can determine the alpha decay half-lives, right? So now I define Q alpha. So this is very easy. Q alpha is actually the binding energy of the daughter nuclei, binding energy of the alpha particle minus the binding energy of the parent nucleus. Plus this is the screening effect. This this factor contributes very negligibly to our disintegration energy. So this is actually the screening offered by the atomic electrons to the alpha particle when it comes out of the nucleus, right? So this is now the formula for disintegration energy. So again, now we will determine this disintegration energy. So for that we require the binding energies, and binding energy, as we know, we can calculate it from the liquid drop model, from the Bethe-Weizsäcker formula, semi-empirical mass formula, which is based on the liquid drop model. So Bethe-Weizsäcker in 1937 proposed the semi-empirical formalism for the binding energy of the nucleus, but today there are various types of semi-empirical formalism available to calculate the binding energy of the nucleus, and one of those is R method. So this is R method to calculate the binding energy of the nucleus. So all the parameters in this binding energy formula are given here, and the last two terms are very important. So the approach we are following to calculate the binding energy is actually called the microscopic macroscopic approach, right? So all the terms except the last two terms are from the macroscopic view of the liquid drop, while the last two terms are obtained using the microscopic approach to the liquid drop. So that I'll explain now. So now everything is known to us, like AVA is minus 15.505, kV is also given here, kV is minus 1.825. Everything you want to know is given in these parameters, but delta U and delta P we have to calculate. So now what is delta P? Delta P actually the pairing energy. The pairing energy you guys add in Bethe-Weizsäcker formula is this delta A raised to power minus 3/4. We have modified that term. And also this delta U is actually the shell structure energy. That is not taught, I think, in graduation classes, but we have included another thing to our binding energy formula, which is shell correction energy and the pairing correlation energy. So now, again, I will discuss what is actually this shell correction energy and the pairing correlation energy. So for this, as we know, again, a very new thing, that when we have to describe the magic number in the nucleus, we take the help of the shell model. So what is shell model? Shell model takes the Hamiltonian, which we use for the shell model, has actually the spherically symmetric harmonic oscillator potential plus the spin orbit interaction, right? So this Hamiltonian explains the magic number inside a nucleus. So we will follow the same Hamiltonian to calculate our shell correction, right? So to calculate the shell correction, we will consider the level density of the harmonic oscillator plus spin orbit interaction. So this is the single particle level density of the harmonic oscillator plus spin orbit interaction. So this is the average part, this is the oscillatory part. So that thing which I am discussing over here now, this is another theory which is called the periodic orbit theory or the semi-classical physics. So all this is obtained semi-classically. So one who is interested in how I have obtained this, they can go through the book by Bragg and Bhaduri, which is called the semi-classical physics. Following that book, we can easily obtain this expression, right? So right now I am telling you how to use this expression. So this is the total single particle level density of the harmonic oscillator plus spin orbit interaction, right? So shell structure energy is actually given as the difference in the energies when we take the total level density minus when we take only the smooth part of the level density. So these are all the expression which you have seen in your statistical mechanics. All the postgraduate students have seen these expressions in statistical mechanics, that once you know the partition function, then you can easily derive your single particle level density by taking the inverse Laplace transform of your partition function. And once you have obtained the level density, every physical quantity can be derived from the level density. So this shell structure energy is actually difference in the internal energies when you take the total level density and when you take only the smooth part of the level density. So this is now the shell structure energy. So once you have got this shell structure energy for a spherical nucleus, so you will again add the deformation effects, because all nuclei are not the spherical nuclei. So you have to add the deformation effects also. So this theta square takes care of the deformation. So this is all about this shell structure energy, and this is and now about the pairing energy. So for pairing energy, we have followed the theory which is called the BCS theory. So these two expressions actually are the core of the BCS theory. GNP is the pairing strength, and from the first expression, which is called the particle number conservation, solving these expressions simultaneously, we can have this chemical potential or Fermi energy lambda and P's, and the pairing constant GNP, right? And this delta, which is called the pairing gap, and this can be calculated using the 4-point formula, which is given in the book by Shapes and Shell in Nuclear Physics by Reginarsson, right? So this is easy, 4-point formula to calculate the pairing gap. Put in the internet in Google, you will get the formula. It's very easy. So using this formula and solving these expressions simultaneously numerically. Obviously, these expressions can't be solved analytically. You have to solve these expressions numerically. You can find the lambda and p's. So once the lambda and p's are obtained, again the pairing energy is given as the difference in the energy where you considered the pairing energy, minus the energy when you do not consider pairing at all, like we considered in the last time, right? So this is the difference. First you consider the pairing energy, then you don't consider the pairing energy. So this is actually the ENP pair, and this is the pairing energy. This is actually the internal energy when you do not consider the pairing energy. Just subtract the later from the former, and you will get the pairing correlation energy, that is delta P. So these are all the parameters which we use while doing these calculations, and again using our formula. Using our formula for the binding energy, we have calculated the disintegration energies for all the super heavy nuclei. For all the super heavy nuclei, even super heavy nuclei lying in the regime 1042, 118, plus even odd nuclei and odd even nuclei as well. And we have obtained that the RMS value is 0.501, which is quite acceptable in nowadays. This is actually the main average of the deviation of our result from the experimental one. Again, our results are very much in good agreement with the experimental one, and the difference is always less than 1. So now once we are done with the disintegration energy, our next step is to calculate the alpha decay half-lives. So our method is already established to calculate the alpha decay half-lives. So using that theoretical method, we have calculated the alpha decay half-lives, and all the empirical method, that is Viola-Seeberg, modified Viola-Seeberg, Royers, modified Royer-Brown, modified Royer, you name MMF, ACRA, all these models, we have calculated these alpha decay half-lives for the unknown super heavy nuclei, for the super heavy nuclei which are yet to be made in our laboratories. And so these are the results. We have plotted in figures. For example, in first figure, we have plotted the result for half-life for the nuclei with atomic number is equal to 118. And similarly in figure 2, we have again plotted our results for atomic number equal to 118 and VS-ACRA Univan MMF model, right? And the same things we have repeated for Z equal to 120. And later you will see that the same things we have repeated for Z equal to 122, 124, and 126. This is how we predict alpha decay half-lives for the unknown super heavy nuclei. Okay, so the next is the spontaneous fission half-life. So to calculate the spontaneous fission half-life, we have used expression number 26. Here Q is not the alpha disintegration energy, it is the fission disintegration energy. And its expression is 0.13323 z square raised to power 1 by 3 minus 11.64. And the other factors C0, C1, C2, C3, C4 are given here. So why we are calculating the spontaneous fission half-life? Because we don't know whether a nuclei will decay by alpha decay or by spontaneous fission, right? So to know the dominancy of one over another, we have to calculate the branching ratios. So branching ratios is actually the ratio of the spontaneous fission half-life over alpha decay half-life, right? So for that, we have to calculate this spontaneous fission half-life. So this factor would tell us whether a nucleus would decay by alpha decay emission, by alpha particle emission, or by spontaneous fission, right? So these are all, the alpha decay half-life calculation for our other super heavy nuclei with Z equal to 112, 124. Okay, so once we have found the branching ratio B, we would see that the nuclei for which log 10B is greater than 0, they would survive the spontaneous fission and they would decay by with the emission of alpha particle. However, the nuclei whose log 10B is less than 0, that is negative, they would decay by the spontaneous fission. So this is about the branching ratios. So the other thing is that experimentally, we can measure the half-lives which are greater than 100 nanoseconds, right? So lesser than 100 nanosecond half-lives, we can't measure experimentally in our labs. So the nuclei whose log 10 half-life is greater than -7 can be detected experimentally, while whose log 10 T half is not greater than -7 can't be detected experimentally. These are again the results for alpha decay half-lives for Z equal to 1126. So, and we have mentioned here the nuclei which can be identified in our laboratories through alpha decay. So these are 298, 300, and 302, 118. 300, 302, 304, 308, 120, 304, 306, 310, 312, 314, 112, 312, 316, 318, 320, 124, 310, 312, 314, 318, 126. So there is a possibility of the experimental detection of these super heavy nuclei in our laboratories. So these are the predictions which are given by us, and the experimentalist can use these predictions to design their experiment so that they can synthesize or identify these super heavy nuclei in their labs. All right. So another thing is the alpha decay chains. So from our analysis, we have also noticed 11 alpha decay chains. So that we have reported in this table. So 312, 126 decaying into 308, 124, decaying into 304, 122, and 300, 120. And this 300, 120 undergoes spontaneous fission. So that's why the chain is broken over here. So this is how we have recognized 11 alpha decay chains from our analysis, and these decay chains can be beneficial in the synthesis and detection of these super heavy nuclei. All right, now comes to the conclusion. So to conclude, I would like to say that in this work, we have determined alpha decay half-lives, employing the interaction potential comprising of not only Coulomb potential, but the proximity potential as well. We have compared our results for the half-lives with the experimental ones, and RMS value obtained is the lowest as compared to the any other model, right? And then to predict the half-lives of the unknown super heavy nuclei, we have to test our model for the disintegration energies as well. And we have tested our model for the Q alpha values, and the RMS values for that is obtained as 0.501 MeV. And once we have trusted both our models for half-lives and disintegration energies, we are now in the situation to predict the disintegration energies and half-lives of the unknown super heavy nuclei. So this is an attempt which is made by us to predict the disintegration energies and half-life of the even super heavy nuclei lying in the regime 118 to 126. And as per our analysis, these nuclei can be detected through the alpha decay mode, and we have also detected the alpha decay chains, and these nuclei can be detected through this alpha decay chain. And we very firmly believe that this exercise would pave the way for future experiment in the synthesis and detection of new super heavy nuclei, and hence locating the island of the stability. And I would like to thank my collaborators, Dr. Sudhira Jain from BRC Bombay, Dr. Pradeep Singh from GNDU Amritsar, Sania Monga, GNDU Amritsar, Deepika Pathak, GNDU Amritsar, Navdeep Singh, GNDU Amritsar. And these are my publications. And the work which I presented in this talk is recently accepted, and it can be seen online as well. And this is by my students, Deepika Pathak, Navdeep Singh, Harjeet Kaur, and S.R. Jain, prediction of half-lives of even super heavy nuclei, which is accepted for the Journal of Physics G, Nuclear and Particle Physics. And now I thank you very much, and I welcome all the queries regarding my work.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Harinder Kaur, Assistant Professor in Physics. So I thank you, ma'am, on the behalf of our principal, sir, and all the fraternity of our college. So the knowledge you have given to us today, it is very valuable. You have explained so tough calculations in a very simple manner. And this topic is very similar to the topic we have done in our graduation and post-graduation classes. So I think it will be very easier for students to understand this topic. So students and all the participants, if you have any queries, you can ask. So I think, ma'am, you have explained in such a simple way.
Please, you can ask question in any language if you are maybe Punjabi, Hindi, किसी भी language में तुसी सवाल पूछ सकते हैं, कोई इधर ही tension नहीं, कोई घबराने की गल नहीं है, ठीक है? किसी भी भाषा में तुसी comfortable है, तुसी पूछ सकते हैं.
Ma'am, your explanation is so good. So it is very easy to understand the topic. So again, thank you so much for giving us this valuable knowledge. And thank you all the participants for paying your attention. And please, I request to the participant to please turn on the cameras so that we can have a screenshot. So please turn on the cameras, all the participants.
Swalta Vijay. Swalta Vijay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Nice talking to you.
So I ended the meeting here. Thank you so much.